In my last video, I said the following. Evolution has given one critical goal to every living creature: survive at any cost. It doesn't matter what happens before or after you're alive, just that you're alive. Humans have somehow reached a point in our evolution where we can convince ourselves this is not the case, and that concepts like discipline, religion, and karma can be more important than being alive. A flippant oversimplification that communicated what I was getting at, but wasn't particularly accurate if you really think about it. Firstly, from an evolutionary standpoint, survival of any given individual is obviously important, but really the goal is survival of the species as a whole. So passing on your genes is more important than just avoiding death. So until evolution figures out how to make a literally invincible species, it seems reasonable that it would hardwire us with exceptional circumstances in which death is acceptable, like sacrificing yourself to save your progeny. So avoiding death is a constant and critical priority for an individual, but there may be things that supersede it without logically contradicting evolution. I also inferred humans were the only creatures to reach this point in evolution, where we can willingly choose death over some undesirable alternative, or maybe it's the case that we're the only species who can decide what we're willing to throw our lives away for, and humans will throw their lives away for anything. Love, honor, spite. I can imagine a lion sacrificing itself to protect its cubs, but I can't imagine a lion thinking, "I never catch any of these wildebeest. Fucking hate them bastards. Tomorrow I'm going to drown myself in the watering hole and let my decomposing carcass poison them all." See, that way of thinking just seems uniquely human. This leaves me with a question that I'm not allowed to ask, because it contains a word that gets me thrown in the internet oubliette every time I say it. Can animals commit you-know-what-aside? You might be saying, of course they can. It's been documented in animals in captivity. And while it's true that there are cases of otherwise healthy animals engaging in self-injurious behaviour that leads to death, find me one case where it was proven for certain that death was intentional, not accidental. A dog might jump off a roof to its death, but how do you know what it was doing? Maybe it was a navigational error. Maybe it was a sudden reaction to pain or fear. Maybe the dog was sick. Maybe he thought he could fly. How would you know? For these reasons, there is not a single case of an animal that scientists definitively and unanimously agree intentionally killed itself. Now, scientists have studied and confirmed that some non-human animals can suffer from depression, addiction, PTSD, etc. So why is it so hard to prove they are capable of self-destructing? Well, the animal would need to have a concept of self, an acknowledgement that it exists independently from other animals. With the mirror tests, scientists have confirmed that some animals do seem to have some understanding they exist in the world. Next, they would need to understand the concept of death, that something can go from existing to not existing. Scientists believe certain animals do seem to understand this well enough to mourn and experience grief. But just because an animal has self-awareness and knows that things can die, does not necessarily mean that the animal understands that dying is something that could happen to it. Do they understand how time moves on? That there is a future regardless of whether or not they're a part of it? Until we know the answers to these questions, we'll probably never be able to confirm an animal knew what it was doing when it killed itself, unless they start writing notes. But there are animals that kill themselves. So why? Well, the most famous example is probably lemmings, the Arctic rodent known for throwing themselves off cliff edges en masse. When a lemming population undergoes rapid growth, a portion of the lemmings will leave so that the habitat is not overpopulated. The story goes that these lemmings will either intentionally kill themselves to ease the burden on the population, or that they are so stupid that if one falls off a cliff during migration, they will all mindlessly follow to their deaths. Just herd mentality with no independent reasoning. And I'm happy to tell you that that's bullshit. Migrating lemmings may accidentally kill themselves by jumping from heights they misjudged or exhausting themselves in bodies of water because they thought the far shore was closer than it was. Fates that could befall almost any migrating animal. They do not regularly throw themselves to their deaths en masse. That's a myth that dates back to at least the 19th century, although it was probably most popularized by Walt Disney's 1958 nature documentary White Wilderness Wilderness, which shows footage of lemmings jumping from a cliff into the Arctic Ocean, which they have apparently confused for a lake. This scene was staged. They took lemmings to this location and pushed them off the cliff. Look at them. They're not leaping. They're trying to stop themselves. So somehow that being a myth is more upsetting than if it were true. Those lemon pushers should have been working with bees instead. Yes, that's right. Bees. In another very well-known example, honeybees, specifically female worker honeybees, are the only type of bee to die after using its stinger. Why? Well, the stinger looks a bit like this on the inside. This is our venom bulb. Inside we have these pump valves which are controlled by the muscles surrounding the bulb. The pointy bit is actually 3 separate pieces: the stylus, which provides stability, and the 2 lancets that slide up and down the stylus by the pumping mechanism. The movement of the lancets also allows the application of the bee's venom. You'll notice the lancets are barbed, likely an adaptation to stick into the thick flesh of mammals. The honeybee does not push the stinger into its target, rather the alternating motion of the lancets sort of digs or saws down into the skin, and the honeybee is pulled along with it. Now, the honeybee is fucked, because the stinger's barbs are lodged in the skin. When the honeybee tries to leave, the stinger tears out of the bee instead, taking with it the stinger's muscles, venom sacs, nerves, and even part of the honeybee's digestive tract. It's literally just torn itself in half from the abdomen and will die in minutes. And it sounded like such an elegant design. The detached stinger can keep pumping venom for up to a minute after it said its goodbyes to the bee. It also pumps an alarm pheromone that signals other bees to attack. That's pretty brutal, and honeybees will generally only do this as a last resort when they're out by themselves, like only when they think their death is imminent. However, when the hive is threatened, they'll enthusiastically give their lives to defend it. So this seems like a case where evolution has programmed the bees to kill themselves to protect the species. But are the honeybees actually aware of any of this, or are they just like, I will meet this threat with the greatest weapon evolution in its wisdom has crafted for me? Oh, fuck you, evolution. I knew this spear thing was a pile of shite. This is even worse than what you did to the trapdoor spider, and his arse is a door. So if wasps and bumblebees have smoother stingers that allow them to sting repeatedly, why did the honeybee get stuck with a barbed stinger that tears them apart? What was evolution thinking? It seems to be that if evolution thinks you need a more effective weapon, then you're getting it, and to hell with the consequences for you. Like animals with horns that keep growing until they curl back in on the animal and kill them. Or humans with our powerful brains that most of us clearly don't know how to effectively operate. At least there's some benefit from them before they kill you. Like, they have their purpose as well as their drawbacks. The honeybee stinger's purpose is its drawback. Save the hive, kill yourself. It's self-sacrificing, suicidal altruism, something like autothysis. Autothysis is the process in which an animal destroys itself by rupturing or exploding an internal organ which ruptures the skin. It's found in certain species of termite and ant, which have glands full of nasty substances. The substances may be sticky or corrosive or toxic, and when the creature is in the fell clutch of dire circumstance, it violently contracts its muscles surrounding the gland, bursting both the gland and the insect's body and spraying those nasty chemicals all around them. Some species of termites do this to plug the tunnels to their nest with a sticky tar-like substance, defending the nest from invasion and killing the termite in the process. The Malaysian exploding ant performs autothysis in direct combat with other arthropods, blowing itself up to cover its attackers in acidic goo. So of all the millions of species of animals to have ever existed, we have known of only a small handful that evolution identified as effective suicide attackers. Humans, I guess, were not one of them, but we figured it out anyways. How this evolved is unknown, but obviously for these species, the kamikaze tactics were very successful in protecting their genes, and so gave them an evolutionary advantage and survived with them. To an individual, evolution might say, look, I know it's less than optimal that 1 or 2 of your eyelashes fall out and get stuck in your eye, But the rest of those eyelashes keep everything else out of your eye. So trust me, this is a real good trade-off. And to a species it might say, look, I know it's less than optimal that 100 or 200 of your workers blew themselves up, but the rest of those workers are still alive because of it. So trust me, this is a real good trade-off. But we still don't know if those animals are consciously choosing to die or just choosing to fight without fully comprehending they'll be dicked by the dangling dong of destiny in doing so. But some scientists believe there is a way to find out if non-human animals possess the cognitive capability to intend to die. It would require lab research and experiments in finding reproducible conditions that cause animals to seek to kill themselves. And while humans have mistreated and killed countless animals in the name of science, it seems tormenting creatures for the sole purpose of driving them to suicide is a step too far even for us. Or more likely, no one's been willing to pony up the funding. Well anyways, if you liked the video, I have many more for you to enjoy. You can subscribe to see more of my videos in the future, and you can join the channel membership to support me monetarily. That means you give me money. Thank you, and until next time, stay safe.